It's almost time to vote. But what are we actually voting for? Why are there two ballots? What actually is the Senate?
It's Voting 101 for 2025 with Matilda Boseley from The Guardian. Australia!
Australian elections can be pretty confusing, but our voting system is really interesting when you understand it properly. And as you'll see throughout this series, low-key way better than the system in some other countries that I dare not name. So the first thing you need to know is that Australian federal elections are actually kind of two elections combined. That's why you get two different ballots, one for the lower house and one for the upper house. Now, the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives, has 150 seats, each representing an area of Australia called an electorate. The vote down here is arguably the most important because whichever political party or coalition of parties manages to win an outright majority of seats gets to form government and their leader becomes the Prime Minister. Because of that, in Australia, you aren't directly voting for Anthony Albanese or for Peter Dutton, you're just voting for which local candidate you want to represent your electorate. One quirk of our voting system is that those electorates are based on population size, not geographical area. So you end up with inner city electorates like Grayndler that only encompass 32 square kilometres, and then outback electorates like Durack, which are 1.4 million square kilometres, nearly as big as Mongolia. This also means highly populated states like Victoria and New South Wales have way more seats in the lower house and thus get way more of a say in legislation than WA or Tasmania. To compensate for that though, there's the upper house or the Senate, where every state gets an even number of representatives. These senators also serve for 6-year terms, with half of the seats going up for grabs each election cycle. The territories, both of the Northern and Australian capital variety, only get 2 senators though, and those guys' seats go up for grabs every 3 years. In the upper house, parties win seats based on the proportion of votes they receive. So notionally, as long as you can win over like 1/6 of the state's population, you should be able to score a seat. That's why it's generally much easier for minor parties like the Greens or One Nation to get representation in the Senate rather than the House of Reps. And look, yes, the Senate doesn't decide who's in government or anything fancy like that, but it is still worth watching closely come election night. Every piece of legislation will go through them as well. So if the ruling party doesn't also have a majority up there, they might need to start making some serious compromises with those minor parties and independents in order to actually get any laws passed. So that's what your votes go towards. And next time I'll explain how they're actually counted and why our preferential voting system is kind of really cool.